Welcome, and thank you all for joining us today for MNADV's 2023 Domestic Violence Homicide Memorial Service. Thank you first and foremost to the loved ones of those we have come together to remember today, for providing us the opportunity to process this pain alongside you. Thank you also to our Maryland State Senators and delegates, service providers, and community members, many of whom assisted MNADV in tracking and verifying these deaths. On this somber but meaningful occasion, we are so grateful to have you here in community with us. We hope this space will provide you a sanctuary to experience your grief around these losses, as well as an opportunity to join your voice with our partners throughout Maryland who are collectively striving to end intimate partner homicide in our state. My name is Jen Pollitt-Hill, and I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland Network Against Domestic Violence. As Maryland's statewide Domestic Violence Coalition, today marks our 35th year of bringing together victim service providers, allied professionals, and concerned Marylanders of all walks of life to memorialize the intimate partner victims, their children, and bystanders whose lives were lost due to intimate partner violence in the past year. Prior to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, MNADV would host this memorial in person, creating a shared space to grieve the impact of partner violence on all of our communities, and to reinvest ourselves in changing the systemic factors that contribute to these tragedies. While safety and accessibility concerns have once again inspired the network to convene this meeting virtually, we still remain deeply committed to honoring the victims who tragically lost their lives this past year, between January 1st and December 31st of 2022. As we review their names, photographs, and quotes provided by a surviving loved one in the ceremony to come, we remember that these individuals are so much more than numbers and names or faces on a screen. These people are our family, someone's parents, siblings, and children. They are our friends, our neighbors, co-workers, teammates, and community members. Each of these people matters to you, our community, and to us at MNADV. Today, we stand in solidarity with their loved ones, gathered here and elsewhere, to remember that these individuals are so much more than how we lost them. Their memory is a blessing to everyone they knew. While we cannot change the loss loved ones feel and will continue to navigate, we are grateful for the opportunity to remember and honor their lives and legacies. This year's service is once again particularly heartbreaking. As we will discuss today, the numbers of lives lost due to intimate partner violence in 2022 is as high as 2020's numbers, and they were the highest in Maryland since 2007. We also hold space today for those whose names we do not yet know, whether because they are still missing or because we have yet to identify them as having died due to intimate partner violence. However, we remain steadfast in this. We do not accept this as the norm, but rather we are galvanized and persist in attempting to prevent more of these losses in the future. In remembering these people and what their lives meant to all of us, we hope to provide solidarity and remind us that none of us are alone. This does not have to be this way. We hope today's service will reinvigorate you to join us in our efforts to eradicate intimate partner violence and its harmful impact on our community. Collectively, we can end intimate partner homicide. May we move forward in Maryland so that we no longer have a need for a memorial service because no one was lost to this violence. May it be so. And now I'd like to introduce MNADV's board president, Fiona Oliphant.
My name is Fiona Oliphant, and I'm the president of the board of directors of the Maryland Network Against Domestic Violence. At this memorial service today, we are gathered to honor the intimate partner victims and bystanders who lost their lives due to partner violence in the 2022 calendar year. While in 2020, we saw a drastic increase in fatalities compared to previous years, the highest number since 2007 at 56 lives lost, and once again saw an increase in 2021 with 58 lives lost, we are saddened to report another heavy year. In 2022, an additional 56 Marylanders lost their lives due to intimate partner violence. Of these 56, 26 were the intimate partner victims in abusive relationships, 13 were abusive partners, 14, including 5 minor children, were bystanders, and 3 others were killed within a situation of domestic violence wherein the dynamics are still being determined by the legal system. The youngest victim was only 1 year old, while the oldest was 67 years old. This breakdown of victims is notable for many reasons, but especially because of the high number of children who died this year. In fact, more children died within intimate partner violence dynamics in 2022 than in the past 13 years in Maryland. The last time we lost 5 children in 1 year was in the 2008-2009 tracking cycle. In addition, these children who lost their lives are not the only victims under the age of 18 in these tragedies. At least 30 more children were left without one or both of their parents due to intimate partner violence this year. Another notable trend seen in these breakdowns relates to the high number of bystander deaths this year. This figure is higher than normal in part due to concerning increase in what MNADV is referring to as perceived intimate bystander killings. Known widely in the field as sexual competitor killings, MNADV has chosen to adopt the phrasing perceived intimate bystander killing to more accurately and humanely describe these cases. A perceived intimate bystander killing is any case where a current or former intimate partner of an abused victim is killed by a current or former abusive partner of that abused victim. At MNADV, we acknowledge that such an act of intimate terrorism is meant to exert power and control over an abused partner, and therefore we count these lives lost as bystanders, abusive partners, or pending cases depending on the dynamics and information available to MNADV at the time of the memorial service. In 2022, 13 of 56 Marylanders who lost their lives died within a case that fits this definition. That means that 23% of victims this year died within this dynamic. Of these individuals, 5 were killed within a quadruple murder-suicide in which the perpetrator killed his ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend, along with her mother, her brother, and himself. 5 other men were killed by abusive partners in single homicide events. 1 additional abusive partner was killed while attempting to kill a perceived intimate partner of his girlfriend. And finally, 2 additional men died in this category for whom MNADV cannot identify predominant aggressor because the cases are still pending within the legal system. It's historically uncommon to have this many bystander deaths in 1 calendar year, and to have so many cases occur within a perceived intimate bystander killing dynamic. MNADV will continue examining these trends moving forward. While there are a high number of men who died as bystanders, the majority of intimate partner victims were women at 85%. 100% of women who died this year, both intimate partner and bystanders, were killed by a man. Finally, 100% of abusive partners who died were men, and 62% took their own life. While anyone of any gender can be an intimate partner victim and anyone of any gender can be a perpetrator, intimate partner homicide remains largely a gendered phenomenon. Intimate partner homicide is also uniquely tied to the overall epidemic of gun violence in our nation. Unfortunately, this trend appears to be consistent or worsening each year. 75% of all domestic violence victims in 2022 were killed with a gun, as compared to 69% that were killed with a gun in 2019. Firearms are always a massive concern in intimate partner violence scenarios, but have accounted for roughly 3/4 of Maryland's deaths consistently throughout the pandemic years. Age also seems to be a meaningful trend in these deaths, namely age gaps between intimate partner victims and abusive partner perpetrators. 62% of intimate partner deaths occurred in the context of a relationship with an age gap of 4 years or more. In 75% of these cases, the abusive partner was older. The largest age gap was 23 years. Murder-suicide remains a concern in Maryland. 38% of 2022 deaths were within the context of a murder-suicide or quadruple murder-suicide. Considering Maryland experienced 2 quadruple murder-suicides in 2022, something never before seen in the state, murder-suicides remain common but may become more lethal. This is especially impacting Maryland's smaller and more rural communities and counties, who usually have lower homicide rates. 43% of bystanders died in murder-suicide cases, suggesting a suicidal perpetrator is a serious risk to everyone in their community, not only the intimate partner within that dynamic. This data suggests more efforts are needed around researching and responding to abusive partners' mental health needs. Research also shows a strong association between the use of firearms to commit a homicide and the subsequent suicide of the aggressor. 86% of deaths attributed to murder or quadruple murder suicides in Maryland in 2022 were gun deaths. Even with the clear and present danger demonstrated each year for those within an intimate partner violence relationship, before, during, and after their exit from the relationship, we are still asked all too often, why didn't the victim just leave? This year's data once again shows how dangerous leaving an abusive scenario can be. Over 1/3, 35%, of intimate partner victims were killed while trying to end a relationship or after they already had. Further, 50% of bystanders who were killed by abusive partners after the intimate partner had taken steps to leave the relationship. Another concern for victims is the link between stalking and homicide. In 11% of deaths, victims reported having been stalked. This is likely a massive underreported statistic, as stalking is not often reported or charged preceding homicides. In 100% of these cases, the stalking persisted even after the abused intimate partner had left the relationship, and in many cases, even after they had sought help from the criminal justice system. Some victims were stalked over numerous state lines or even over numerous decades after terminating their abusive relationship. While domestic violence exists in every social milieu, we continue to see divisions along racial lines in terms of its impact. Black women once again accounted for nearly 60% of intimate partner victims in 2022. Because Black women make up only 15% of Maryland's population, this means that Black women are still being killed by their intimate partners at a rate nearly 4 times their proportion within our state's population. Black men are also overrepresented, but as bystanders rather than intimate partner victims. Black men were the highest proportion of bystander deaths at 42% of those victims. One final trend to note from this year's deaths includes numerous examples of how our system is not protecting those who are most vulnerable. 16 deaths were brought about by an abusive partner with a history of denied protective orders against them. Another 3 deaths occurred after a DVPO was dismissed on a petitioner request. 8 deaths occurred within 1 year of a denial of a PO, while 3 occurred within months of a denial of a PO. In 15 cases, DVPOs were granted, 9 of which included firearms protections, and yet most of these people still died by firearms. At the other end of the spectrum, 4 intimate partner victims had a history of protective orders being filed against them, demonstrating how perpetrators can misuse a system meant to protect victims to further discredit and terrorize them instead. Meanwhile, 19 perpetrators had a history of violent crime preceding the homicide, and in 10 cases, victims' family and friends told the press that although they knew about the violence or dysfunction in the relationship, the victim had not used or felt adequately served by the criminal justice system. In addition, only 4 of the people involved in these 56 deaths were found to have a history of being served by a domestic violence service provider in Maryland. All of this information shows the many victims who lost their lives knew they needed help but did not receive it, while just as many were left not knowing where to turn. We hope to build a Maryland where no victim is without support. We imagine a future where all Marylanders, all identities, can live free lives. Thank you for standing in solidarity with us this afternoon. Thank you for listening to what we have learned from these victims and how we can prevent these tragic losses in the future. And thank you for helping us ensure no life lost to partner violence is forgotten. We hope you find the program healing. Thank you.
We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones.
Wendy Cheney. Akia Eggleston and her unborn son, Anubis. Megan Tillman. Samantha Walker. Lanique Green. Sharice Denise Carr. Nakisha McMillian. Sky Allen. Jayon Penniman. Alka Himanshu Tana. Nicholas Pittman. Remy Howell. Michelle Carter.
If all the world were peaceful now,
Nika
and
Natalie
forever
Jennings.
peaceful at the surface and peaceful at
Sarah
the core.
Harris.
All the joy within my heart would be so free to soar.
Rashawn
And
Klein.
we're living on a living planet, circling a living star. Don't know where
Deshawn
we're
Leah
going,
Klein.
but I know we're going far. We can change
Rima
the universe
Gibson.
by being who we are. And we're living on a living planet, circling a living
Bradina Henson.
If all the world knew justice now and forevermore.
Christy Helmert.
Justice at the surface and justice at the core.
Michelle Lindsay.
Joy within my heart would be so free to soar. And we're living on a living
Veronica Ramirez.
circling a living star. Don't know where we're going, but I know we're going.
Jolicia Fairweather.
We can change the universe by being who we are.
Pauline Hayden.
On a living planet, circling a living star. If all the world knew
Tara
healing
Davina
now
Ricker
and
Milligan.
forevermore, healing at the surface and healing
Teresa Milligan.
all the joy within my heart would be so free to soar.
Nora Milligan.
On a living planet, circling a living star.
Finn
Know where
Milligan.
we're going, but I know we're going far. We can change
Kelly
the universe
Logan.
by being who we are. And we're living on a living planet.
Sandra Watson.
Well, it looks like it might be a hard
Shamado Abdullah
gonna walk
Clark.
it with you. And I know you might have a heavy load, but I can carry some too.
Elaine Jackson.
When they push you down, I will raise my voice and stand my ground. Well, it looks like it might be a hard road,
Sarah
but I'm
Mann.
gonna walk it with you. Well, it looks like it might be a long night, but I ain't going nowhere.
Kai Mann.
Gonna be a hard fight, but I will stay right here. I will stay, I will shine a light in the darkest hour. I will
Somali Sunny Man.
tower. Well, it
Jovan Watson.
I will fight, I will strive in the name of love. I will speak, I will shout, I will sing.
Elise Wars.
Well, it looks like it might be a perilous climb, but I will follow your lead. And I know it's
Corey Ashton.
until the last one of us is free. I will hold on tight, stay by your side. I will be with you.
Morris Hood Jr.
Like it might be a perilous climb, but I will follow your lead.
Louis Joseph Butler III. Denise Middleton and her unborn son, Ezekiel. Shonda Wood. Azane Entrobus. Keisha Blackwell. Trevon Johnson. Daquan Colson. Bernard Jackson II. James Nalborgic. Jessica Rose Craver.
Thank you so much for opening your hearts and minds to join us for this memorial service today. We at MNADV understand how difficult it is to hold so much collective grief and trauma at once. As we support one another through these losses and as we learn from them, it is also important to find hope. To remind us all that the future is hopeful, even as the present is shrouded in grief, we wanted to take some time today to share with you some of the things that the network and our allies throughout the state of Maryland are doing to end intimate partner homicide. While 2022 was another year of painfully high homicides, we at the network are grateful to see a decrease, however small, from our 2021 numbers. Every life saved is worth celebrating. We hold faith that it does not have to be and will not always be this way. In 2021, the MNADV was excited to share with you all a new initiative meant to address this very issue, the Maryland Domestic Violence Fatality Review State Implementation Team, or Maryland DivertSIT for short. This team of now 80+ professionals, survivors, state and county agencies representing 19 counties and jurisdictions in Maryland is now in its second year. Brought about by the hard work of County Fatality Review Team leaders in partnership with the MNADV, statewide partners are now in the process of rolling out 6 unique homicide prevention projects in the areas of criminal justice protocol and response, public health and medical response, training and education, community services, and children's programming, all guided by a first of its kind in Maryland Survivor Advisory Board, who directs and evaluates the team's initiatives. As this team continues to grow and move forward, we believe we can reduce the number of deaths in Maryland due to partner violence in the years ahead. After today's service, the first inaugural progress report of this team will be available to the public. In addition to this team, the MNADV is proud to report that domestic violence fatality review teams have continued meeting throughout the state of Maryland during the entire course of the COVID-19 pandemic, reviewing cases and recommending changes, which the state team will work to implement. In the last year alone, Maryland saw its first tri-jurisdictional review in partnership with the District of Columbia and its first bi-jurisdictional review. The network thanks these teams for their dedication and their assistance in verifying these deaths this year. The work you do is challenging, but so important. Thank you so much for being a part of this afternoon, dedicated to honoring victims of intimate partner violence as we all continue to work together to eradicate partner violence in our communities. We wish each of you a good evening. We acknowledge the collective trauma of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the collective grief of seeing these names today. After today's service, we will be holding a healing space for anyone who feels compelled to join us. We will be staying on this call to support one another, share our experiences, and collectively imagine a better world. We hope that this will help each of you to leave the service feeling empowered to join us in our mission to end intimate partner violence in Maryland. We know that with your help, we can. For those of us joining the healing space, please stay on this call. We will begin shortly.